So on this William Lane Craig piece, now who is William Lane Craig? Maybe you can tell the audience, because you're more familiar with him than I am.
He's a
well-known apologist.
Theologian, apologist. I know he taught at seminaries for a number of years. I know John Loftus actually studied with him. Basically, he's just a famous apologist, and of the Christian quote-unquote thinkers, he's very highly regarded within the community, like Plantinga or Ravi Zacharias, and yet largely unimpressive to those outside of that.
Okay, prepare to be unimpressed.
I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. I'm not saying the guy is stupid or anything else. I'm just saying that there's something about religion in general and Christianity in particular that when intelligent people begin to delve into apologetics to defend their faith, they are exceptionally good at coming up with rationalizations to support their beliefs. They're so good at spinning these that the uninitiated look at them as if they have, they've cracked the problem of evil, or they've cracked the ontological argument, or whatever, and aren't those atheists foolish? And I don't know why it isn't addressed more often, that they are engaged in some rather dishonest argument where they're smuggling in hidden premises. I just had a long conversation with a guy about this last night, or an email trade. But anyway, enough about that.
Okay. Well, a fan of our show sent this in. It's an article from Reasonable Faith where he's answering viewer or questions from people on the internet. It's kind of a blog. And the subject is the slaughter of the Canaanites, and that goes back to Deuteronomy 7, verse 1 through 2.
Yeah, 7, 1, 2. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land where thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy upon them. So basically, It's an order from God to his favorite tribe to go slaughter everybody that's in their way with no mercy.
Right. Kill every living thing.
Take them out, take their stuff.
And so some people wrote William Lane Craig saying, hey, this sure does look immoral to me and all this. So William Lane Craig actually has a kind of jaw-dropping response. First, he argues that objective morals exist, therefore God exists, but that God is not subject to objective morals, and that God's command is what is moral.
He is above the law. He is Steven Seagal.
So this is like one non sequitur after another. So, yeah, objective morals exist, therefore God exists, and then God's somehow completely irrelevant to that.
God is the parent who makes a bunch of rules, and when questioned about them, the answers are because I said so. And when asked why they don't follow the rules, the answer is because they don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm the boss. I brought you into this world. I can take you out.
Right. And
now,
so,
I'm half joking.
No. But it hits it dead on,
it's an amusing thing. But ask yourself, seriously, I don't care, whether you're a theist, atheist, deist, pantheist, whatever. This is what Craig is saying. He's not alone. This is common. Hell, this is the stuff that I used to accept. But ask yourself if this is remotely satisfying to you. Is this something that you think is moral and just? I made the rules. I don't have to abide by them. You do. And they don't exist for any particular reason. They exist because I said so. No jam on Thursdays.
Then he goes off and says, let's blame the victims. They were worshiping other gods. He goes to say, by the time of their destruction, Canaanite culture was in fact debauched and cruel, embracing such practices as ritual prostitution and even child sacrifice.
So if God told William Lane Craig to go around killing the Jew, well, maybe not the Jews, but if he told him to go kill the Muslims and the Hindus and the atheists and the Buddhists and whoever else, then Craig would have to do it and have to think that it's entirely moral. I mean, God's telling him to do that.
Then William Lane Craig goes on to address the children, the fact that this order is to go kill children too, and he goes to say, well, God knew if those Canaanite children were allowed to live, they would spill the undoing of Israel. So just these little babies are gonna, are more powerful than God, and got to kill them. So that was pretty amusing. Then he goes on to say, there weren't any real victims. So first off, he's blaming the victims, and then they're saying, they weren't really victims, right? They weren't really victims. He goes on to say, so whom does God wrong in commanding the destruction of the Canaanites? Not the Canaanite adults, for they were corrupt and deserving of judgment. Not the children, for they inherit eternal life. So who is wronged? Ironically, the most difficult part of this whole debate is the apparent wrong done to the Israeli soldiers themselves. Can you imagine what it would be like to have to break into someone's house and kill a terrified woman and her children? The brutalizing effect on these Israeli soldiers is disturbing.
No, Mr. Craig. What is disturbing is how badly your brain has been poisoned that you're now apologizing. My gosh.
He goes on to say that no one was wringing his hands over the soldiers having to kill the Canaanites. Those who did so were national heroes. So killing children is national hero. You're a national hero if you go kill somebody else's children. So that's a good example of sort of twisted morality for you, right?
Just think how hard it must have been for those Nazis to have had to go in and kill those Jews. That's what you're doing.
That's right.
Just think how bad it was for those slave owners who had to beat those slaves that didn't do what they was told. You complete frickin' asshat. You have no decency. And this isn't, when we're talking about Craig, this isn't some buffoon who goes on the internet to, make himself popular arguing with atheists. This is one of the pinnacles of Christian apologetics. And you wonder, people email, it's like, haven't you ever heard anything, good from any apologist? Yeah, sure. I mean, some of these guys are relatively smart, and some of them are very smart, and they come up with some good arguments, but they don't actually come up with good arguments in favor of what they're saying, and they don't provide evidence to support what they're saying. It's just that, if somebody launches a particular objection against Christianity, for example, and it's a bad one, they can spot the flaws in it, but they're unable to spot the flaws in their own. And now they are saying they're bending over backwards and sacrificing every bit of decency they have in order to make excuses for this fictional monster that they feel they must defend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm really grateful to that fan of ours for sending that in.
And people wonder why I get so spun up about this. If you're not offended, if your sensibilities aren't offended by stupid stuff like that, you're also hopeless. Oh, those crazy Christians, they're just so silly. Look at this stupid stuff. No, this stuff does harm, because once you have a mindset that accepts that this is right and this is wrong, and you can make excuses for stuff like this, that is part of who you are, and it's part of other decisions you make, and it's how we end up with so many of the problems that we have.